You there, exiles, a moment of your time. As we already know, there's an event in PoE 1 going on right now, Legacy of Frisia. And essentially what it is all the Ascendancy classes have been replaced with something that never made it into live patch according to GGG. But here they are now, and there are some pretty outlandish and interesting stuff going on, such as the Surfcaster, the Whisperer, the whatever it is they are. Like, it's all over the place at the moment, but sure, there's many things that I can try. We're still going to stick with playing Scion only, and normally a Scion ascends to become the Ascendant, but here she becomes a Scavenger. All of her skills right now are basically unique items effects, such as the Cloak of Flame, the Obliteration, Aura's Sacrifice, or even the Starforge. So, as you can already imagine, there's probably a ton of things that we can try, and I cannot mention how a 1 month time frame is not even close to enough of what we can do. Well, here we are anyway, and with the Righteous Fire build that you're seeing right now, this is, however, not going to be a build guide because there's already a ton of Righteous Fire guides out there on the internet, and the OG of Righteous Fire, Pox, has already made an entire Wikipedia on how this skill works, detailing everything that you need to know about Righteous Fire. So, I'm not gonna try to even pretend that I know everything about this skill, because I do not. But at least I think I have a fairly good understanding of how to make it work, and I've taken it to the endgame, as you can see right now. So, it's just my take on the Scavenger, playing the same old Righteous Fire in a good old-fashioned run and burn everything that stands in your way. We also have a ton of new players that played PoE 2 for the first time and now are trying out PoE 1. So I hope this video sheds some light on how to make things work. So here's the character. We are at level 93 with a whopping 5,950 life, 750 mana, and 1,540 energy shield. Our defenses are looking okay, and we'll go over each of these things in a few minutes, but, so this is fire resistance. Maybe the character is kind of like blocking your view right now, but I'll just read it out to you, okay? So 89 fire resist, 78 cold resist, and lightning resist, and that's chaos resist at 34%. We can get it up to 90, what we lack the mean to do so at the moment. There's also block at 64 and 78% on attack and spell respectively. These are the result of glancing blows, which we will go over in a minute. A quick note to PoE 2 players who have never played PoE 1 before. I just want to let you know that the flasks are craftable, and as you saw just now, they just went off on their own. You can craft the mods on these to make sure you find things that will work best with your build, as well as automating them to make them use automatically. There's a life flask over here, and there's also even a mana flask, but we don't use it here. And as a matter of fact, in PoE 1, you have to make your build in a way that you don't even need to think about your mana. It is very important to not worry about it, okay? But I'm not saying that mana is not important. It is basically the resource that allows you to attack or use skills. So, sure, it's important, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that you do everything you can so that you don't need to even worry or think about it, okay? So, that's the thing. And the reason for that also is, number 2, we do not have spirit in PoE 1. We reserve mana for our aura skills, okay? And I'm going to show you my auras right now. I have 4 auras and 1 buff that is on me all the time. So we got Arctic Armor that reduces physical damage and fire damage taken while stationary. We got Purity of Fire Aura, max fire resist and additional fire resistance. We got Malevolence, Vitality, and clarity. So these two actually are support gems for your spirit gems in PoE 1, and then purity of fire can be found on a scepter, but in PoE 1 it is just basically a skill gem that you can reserve your mana with. So you can probably already tell that mana reservation is important, and the way you kind of like allocate your resources and skill points to mitigate your mana reservation is extremely important. Okay? And I even reserve some life as well. Now let me just move my cartoon over here a little bit so you can see. Yep. Life 5400 / 5900, so it's saying 536 reserved. Okay, so you have to do anything that you can to make sure that you have all the buffs that you need while not reserving too much of either of these resources. All right, so that's basically a quick note on what I want PoE 2 players to know and think about when trying out PoE 1. Alright? Now, our equipment is pretty much standard. We have a scepter that has an area of effect crafted onto the quality, so instead of increasing the damage, we're increasing AoE. And Righteous Fire is a skill that burns your enemies. Okay? So it doesn't hit. It is not an ailment, because when you turn it on, it's just basically this ring of fire that burns around you, and it applies burning to your enemies. It is not a damaging ailment. That is very important, and I want to make it clear so that we don't make any kind of mistake to our build, okay? So the things that contribute to Righteous Fire damage are the following: your maximum life, your maximum energy shield, elemental damage, that means fire damage as well. Okay? Damage over time multiplier, which also includes fire damage over time multiplier. And lastly, area damage. Okay? So all of these will contribute to how much your Righteous Fire is doing in terms of damage. But at the same time, it burns away your health and energy shield. Well, let me just move again. You can see that my energy shield is gone. It's because the skill is burning me. And how much is it burning, you ask? Well, you burn for 90% of your maximum life per second as fire damage. You burn for 70% of your maximum energy shield per second as fire damage. But that also means that it burns you. Okay? So the only way to turn off Righteous Fire is not by removing the gem out of your character. So I take it out. Sure, the ring is gone, but you are still burning. Put it back on and the ring is just back. But to stop Righteous Fire, you actually need a flask that says becomes immune to ignite and grants immunity to ignite and burning during flask effect. That will remove your Righteous Fire. So what do we do then? How do we mitigate this degeneration, like the burning damage that is doing to us all the time? Well, as it turns out, you need to have an insane amount of life regeneration. So right here, that's life regen. So even my character is in the way. And it's right now at 1786 per second. So I'm regenerating a lot of health. And when you look at my PoB, you're going to see exactly how much I'm regenning and degenning and what is my total net regeneration. Okay, so with that being said, we're doing fire damage to ourselves. It is no-brainer that your fire resistance has to be the highest possible, and it's at 90 right now because our flask just went off again automatically. Okay, so the highest elemental resistance that you can do in PoE 1 and 2 is 90. So with our unique shield, Rise of the Phoenix, we are regenerating so much health, we actually can get maximum fire resistance from this shield as well. So it is a pretty good shield for Righteous Fire. However, you can also try a rare crafted shield that gives you a bunch of other stats as well, if you want. That being said, you also need to find other ways to raise your maximum fire resistances. And there's a bunch of ways that you can do, but I'll save you for that Wikipedia that I mentioned earlier, okay? You should definitely check it out. Pox went through a lot of detail to make sure that everyone knows and understands how to play Righteous Fire. Okay? And big thanks to him. He's one of the absolute best legends in the PoE community. Okay? So, once again, the Scepter. Now, Scepter in PoE 1 is not like a buffing tool or anything. It has an implicit of increased elemental damage. And as you can see, we're crafting multi-craft of fire damage over time multiplier, increased fire damage in general. Fire skill gems is sure, whatever, but it does not increase your Righteous Fire damage. So it means that you can use a Righteous Fire level 1 and it will do the same amount of damage as a Righteous Fire level 20 if you have the same amount of health and energy shield. Okay? And basically the same skill tree. So why do we need the all fire spell skill gems? Well, because we're using other fire skills, such as the Scorching Ray. This thing inflicts a debuff, an exposure that increases fire damage taken by enemies. So naturally, we are always going to be channeling this skill whenever we can to maximize our damage output. And on PoB, I'm doing 1.5 million fire damage at the moment. Okay? So, that's why we have Arctic Armor to reduce fire damage taken from hits as well as physical damage taken from hits. We're going to go over damage taken in a moment as well, but that's your general scepter that you want to craft. Okay, and this thing can go up very, very expensive. Alright? And if you know how to craft one, it'll make you save a lot of money in the process, okay? But I digress. I don't want to spend too much time on crafting because it is so deep that you should also do a reading of your own as well. It is insane how deep this is. And I don't even have a glimpse of like the best crafting methods out there, okay? So, we got a helmet with the minion deals increased damage implicit as well, and we're gonna go over in a moment why we need minion damage. We got damage over time multiplier in here, and an anointment that gives you damage over time multiplier as well as a regen. And we got our vermilion ring with a max life and fire damage, opal ring with increased elemental damage, and we don't have fire damage on here. Well, we can craft one more, but as we can see, we got maximum life, energy shield, and a life regen. And our chest piece is also pretty much the same. Lots of life, lots of regen, and some resistances as well as defense stats. We got implicits, which are the two top rows on the modifier list. 10 physical damage taken as cold, and flasks gain a charge every 3 seconds. So these red and blue glow are the result of Eldritch crafting, which we can kind of like go over in a moment, but at the same time, there's a lot of detail on it, okay? So let's just move on quickly. We got this pair of gloves that really doesn't give me the best mods on the Eldritch crafting, which are the two top rows. But again, regen, resistances, life, and defenses, the Stygian Vice as well, increased damage in general also works. The regen is very dog shit, but it is what it is right now. There's a socketed jewel that gives me some resistances and life and increased damage if you've killed recently. The added cold damage with one attacks doesn't help whatsoever, but it is what it is. And we got a pair of boots with movement speed, obviously, life regeneration rate, and a flat life regen as well as life, and some more defenses. We got increased movement speed and life regen again on the implicits, okay? And I tried to craft one elemental and chaos resistances on all of this because chaos resistances in PoE 1 bypass energy shield 100%. It doesn't matter if it's poison or just chaos damage in general, it bypasses. Unlike PoE 2, where generic chaos deals double damage to energy shield and poison always bypasses. Okay, so they are slightly different, and it also is better for you to understand the differences when playing two different games. Okay, so those are the equipment, and let's head over to the skill tree real quick. We got a bunch of things going on right now, and your mind might start to explode once I get to the cluster jewels, which we will get to in a moment, okay? So let's take a look at what we have right now. As a Scion, you start at the center, okay? And you can pretty much go anywhere, do whatever you want. The other classes start here on these outer circles. Pretty much like how you start PoE 2, and in the middle of PoE 2, that's your ascendancy skill tree. But here we got the Scion, and your ascendancy class is just this button that expands the tree. Okay, so the ascendancy class points are being allocated to Cloak of Flame. 40% of Fist taken as fire. As you already saw, we have an absurd amount of fire resistance, so it's only natural to allocate some of the damage to be taken as fire. Okay? Armor is also dogshit. Okay, it's only 5.3k, and it says estimated physical damage reduction 56%. That is nothing. Okay? So, out of 100% that we take, 40% is already being taken as fire, and that is being further mitigated by your fire resistance. So that is how you kind of like make your build tankier. We got Obliteration that gives you a 30% chance for your enemies to explode, dealing chaos damage. I mean, the chaos damage is whatever, but you know, if you run into a big crowd of mobs, they would just kind of like explode into a daisy chain reaction, and it is so satisfying when you see it happen. Okay, and then, of course, we got Death Rush, which is an adrenaline for 5 seconds on kill. And adrenaline grants 100% increased damage. Now, I just want to mention that this is the first multiplier of the damage. Okay, this is not like the last multiplier. It would have to say more damage in that case. But 100% increase is still, you know, pretty decent. 25% increased attack, cast, and movement speed, and 10% additional physical damage reduction. So just makes it a little tankier and dealing a little bit more damage. So that's always great. Okay, now, this particular piece of jewel is a rather curious one. Pretty much every Scion has to have this thing equipped, and I would always transfer this over to my other Scion characters in the same league, because this unnatural instinct jewel right here gives you all the bonuses of all unallocated small nodes, but make it so that your allocated small nodes grant nothing. So right now I have my increased max mana, but as soon as I put this on, I don't get anything, but I will get these bonuses instead. Only the small nodes, the notables, are still normal, okay? But I'm getting these as well, increase effect duration, that ends as well, and I don't get this strength. So if you hover your mouse over here, you can kind of like see what kind of bonuses you're getting, okay? And most of the times you will want to pair this with a Light of Truth jewel, I think that's what it's called, or a Timeless jewel that changes or modifies these passives in the ring, and your unnatural instinct will also gain those benefits as well. If you go to my previous builds on other Scion characters, you'll see me explaining this kind of mechanic very clearly, alright? Anyway, so we're kind of like grabbing all the lives that we can because we are scaling damage based on our maximum life. We got max fire resist and life over here, fire damage over time multiplier, and some regen. We got glancing blows, which doubles our block chance, but the blocked hits still deal damage to you for 65% instead of 100%. I mean, you know, it's still okay if it means that you are getting your blocks up to 70%. So these are also the blocks, and max elemental resist, some life, some minion damage over here, and some regen. And minion damage is going to benefit us because we have spiritual aid, which means that increases and reductions to minion damage also affect you. So that's why we got the bone helmet up there. Okay, and these are the mana reservations. So without these notes, I won't be able to turn on all of these auras. Okay, and then we got 8% increased damage for each of your aura or herald skills affecting you. So we now have 4 auras. Arctic armor is not an aura. It is just a permanent buff, but these are auras. Okay, so I turn clarity on, and it's only level 1, I think, but just for the sake of turning it on so that I get 8% increased damage. We don't even use mana, but, you know, whatever. We can also get precision on here as well to get even slightly increased damage, but I don't think we have any more skill sockets, okay? We got life and block and fire damage and AoE, fire over time multiplier, some block as well, and fire damage over here and some life. So basically fire damage, elemental damage, life, etc. And a piece of jewelry, life, fire resistance, fire damage over time multiplier, and well, the attack damage is nothing but, you know, it is what it is, okay? Now, here is where your mind will start to blow. These are called cluster jewels. They are craftable skill tree that will allow you to kind of like customize your build however you like. Okay, so for example, if you're playing some other classes, or I mean even this class, there's not enough fire damage nodes going on right now. I mean sure, these are the fire damage nodes, but then we don't really need the penetration because it's a burning damage over time, and penetration works only with hits, so it is kind of useless. I mean, sure, it's nice, but nah. We're much better off getting area of effect, burning damage, and some damage over time multiplier, which can be found on these jewels, and some chaos resistances against damage over time, namely poison, caustic ground. Okay, so these are very nice. Now, let me just quickly show you what craftable cluster jewels are all about. Okay, so basically these are items. If I take these off, you're gonna notice that they are actually just jewelries, and they can be found playing Delirium. Okay, so in PoE 2, it's the instilled emotions that you anoint your amulets with, but in PoE 1, Delirium rewards you with cluster jewels, and so you can craft your jewel to give you certain mods or even extra notable skills. Okay, so if I were to use a chaos orb on this, it will change the mods on here permanently. Okay, so let's see what we can actually do. Yeah, we don't want to kind of like change anything right now at the moment, but if you socket these jewels into the large jewel socket, there's going to be a skill tree growing out of it. Now, these are large sockets, but these are basic sockets. So cluster jewels cannot go into these. They can only go into this like star-shaped socket. Okay, and so you get your skill points down, apply, and then there's a medium socket. Get your skills out. And lastly, the smallest. Okay, so the base type of this large one is increased fire damage. So when you craft your cluster jewel, it's going to give you relevant notables, if you will. So right now we have Cremator and Widespread Destruction. So what's Cremator? So, increased fire damage, ignited enemies killed by your hits are destroyed, meaning leaving no corpses. We don't need that because we don't hit anything, but the fire damage is nice. There are other notes as well, but we lacked the currencies to craft at the time that we started playing, so we left it at that. It could be changed right now if we want to. And we got some chaos resistances over in these small notes, and this is widespread destruction, so we got AoE and elemental damage, which works with fire. And the medium ones are damage over time, burning damage. So burning damage is a little bit better because it's 12% rather than a 10% generic damage over time. So again, I would change this later, but then our mods are damage over time multiplier, and then of course there's life in the end. Some damage over time multiplier and recover life energy shield on kill, so that's great. We got burning bright over here, which is burning and AoE, and damage over time multiplier as well as chaos resistance against AoE. DOT dots. And we got life, regen, and flow of life, which is damage over time and maximum life and regeneration. So there you have it. Alright, so I hope that wasn't too fast, but understandably, if you feel that was a little too much, we got some AoEs over here, generic increased damage, and minions deal increased damage, so that's always a plus. And we got some elemental damage and elemental resistances over here as well, life, energy shield, regen armor, so on, so forth. Okay, so I hope you followed me through till the end. Let's do some tier 16 for you to see. We're gonna go to the Defiled Cathedral, and the mods that we have to look out for is less recovery rate. Okay? Okay, this is good. We need to be careful about the regeneration mods. Less recovery, cannot recover life. Max resistance mitigation, so less maximum resistances and less armor, less block chance. Those are horrible. Okay, now this map isn't in any way juiced up or anything, but just for you to see how fast we can go through a map. So we're running around with shield charge and turn it on and basically run through. There it is. So this is Vow Righteous Fire, which deals even more damage and has a bigger AoE. Now these are the Scion Exarch altars, so let me see. House Scourge, maps dropped, we're gonna get that. There we go. Yeah, take that Crimson Jewel, and keep running. So now our flasks are being automated, as you can see. As long as we run through a group of monsters, you're gonna have flasks charges up all the time. So now this is an expedition. Oops. Okay. One bomb to rule them all. And just check if you have any mods that you don't want to have, such as enemies are immune to fire damage. That is not good, okay? Well, I suppose that's enough. Let's go. Warcry. We can curse as well, with flammability. So put the curse down. There it is. So all the details on all skill links can be found on my PoB as well. So just to keep this video short, I just don't want to go through all of it in detail when you can find all of those information on my PoB. Oh my god, what the hell? I didn't sign up for this. Okay, we're gonna curse. Yeah, it's a nuisance when it comes to trying to actually kill bosses. But, your build is pretty tanky, so just it's kind of like stand here and just, let him do his thing. Whoop! And just run out of the way for that big AoE. Curse? I got the curse ground going on, so anything that steps on this cursed ground will be cursed. There we go. Oops. We got a red beast coming up. Let's go! Yes, I'm the Exile. Curse. Alright. And we're at the map boss. Boom. And now we got the Abyss. I actually really like Abyss. It's one of my favorite League mechanic. I drop a cursed ground on top of the pit, so that anything that comes out of the pit will be cursed instantly. Oh, the mana ring, by the way, also deals lightning damage over time, so it's going to be different from what you know in PoE 2. Oh my god, and this thing... Both of these guys are soul eaters. I hate soul eaters. Whoa. Okay, instilling orb, I'll take it. I got some tower defense going on, let's go. Okay, we'll just go. See how they kind of like explode in a daisy chain? And I don't even need to go out there. Well, oh my god. So if you'd like the loot filter, that's my voice speaking Thai. So if you find it interesting, you can also find that loot filter down in the description, and I will always constantly update. It is only working with PoE 1 right now, so you're gonna have to wait for PoE 2. But I will definitely make it happen. Don't you even sweat, okay? Oh my god, I hate it when this thing pops up at the end of the map. Jeez. Anyway, one monster left, we're not gonna bother with it. So, there you have it. My take on the Righteous Fire. I mean, it turns out to become something that might, some people might want to call it like a build guide, but, I just don't want to kind of like, shove this thing into your head and just like tell you, oh, this is like, one of the best way to play Righteous Fire. No, it's just my take on it, and, this is what I do. Just a quick note, by the way I set up my skill with Righteous Fire is that we got Righteous Fire, obviously. We got Burning Damage, Elemental Focus, Swift Affliction, Efficacy, and Life Tap. Now, Swift Affliction will not work if you do not have Life Tap. Okay, because Righteous Fire is not a duration gem, but with Life Tap, it becomes a duration gem. Okay, and we're also having level 1 Life Tap with Shield Charge, so that every time we do a Shield Charge, we have Life Tap, and Righteous Fire will do increased damage. Okay, so there you have it. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time on the next build. I have a couple more coming up, so before PoE 2 launches on 0.2, expect to see a couple more, maybe even several of my Science Only series here on this channel. Have a great day, and see y'all next time. Peace out.